Hello, everyone, and welcome on to the MEC Pod. We're ready to get into everything. We got some games to talk about here, and it's looking like it's an exciting time. Unfortunately, it's a sad time for others. We're going to get to that here. Travysty, joined here with Matt Dewey and Shibby. Gentlemen, how's your week been?
Oh, I guess I'll start. Yeah, my girlfriend got sick last week, and we've
Oh,
just been like trying to take care of. Well, she's better now, but yeah, we were just like kind of back and forth. I was like, oh, she's like, oh, I'm fine. She'd wake up in the morning, I'm gonna die. Like, oh, I hate this, and like I feel like I've caught something, a little bit of it now. Not
Mhm.
anything really crazy, just like something with my throat, like when I swallow or like, if I try to like, talk a lot. Yesterday it was hurting on our cast. We're recording this on
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday 3/19. You
mm-hmm.
saw me drinking, like, if you saw me chugging a ton of tea, yeah, that I was like in pain. I was in a ton of pain. But other than that, defending democracy. That's what I've been doing.
Understood that. Understand that. Have you been doing any democracy serving here back?
Travi, we have to do our part in the fight to protect Super Earth. I'm just another guy, doing my part, So
Just a dude.
He's doing
I'm
his part.
absolutely dropping, taking care of bugs. I just got the laser cannon. Very efficient. I appreciate the new technology the government's giving us in our fight to defend democracy, man. Yeah, absolutely. And still waiting on Shibby and I's Lipton sponsorship. Fingers crossed. We need the tea to keep us going for the rest of playoffs. And if Lipton and Unify don't want to partner up, maybe we can get it for the MEC pod at least to keep us chugging through. I mean, we're getting close. It's crazy. We were talking to the players yesterday, Travi, and it really does feel like this season's gone by really, really fast.
I mean, it's what, half the amount of games that we had previously. There's
Yeah.
there's so many things that are just changed inside this season. It's a blink and you've missed it kind of moment. And there's been
Mm-hmm.
so many storylines. It's been competitive, but it's also just like, man, oh man, I wish MEC Pod after like the not MEC Pod but the MEC like after finals. It's like, all right, now Summer Split is coming out. It's just like
Yeah.
instead of summer split, it is getting ready for round of 32 for all the
Mm-hmm.
best collegiate teams to go face off against each other. We haven't really had a lot of detail in regards to that yet either, on like what top 8 and what that's going to look like, whether it's going to be live on stage. I don't believe they've made any updates on that, so I'm really hoping that they do get a top 8 live
Mm-hmm.
stage. um, if that will happen,
That would be
is yet to be
sick.
seen. Yeah, it would be sick.
I mean, in-person esports, I mean, we saw it and like we talk about it on stream, kind of with
Mm-hmm.
the ad reads a little bit. Shout out Unified for their powering esports or like mastering the arena article
Mm-hmm.
series. You'd think after the ad reads we would have it down pat by this point, but I do still not quite remember what the title of the series is, but I think it hits a good point on like the power of in-person esports. And right, last year was only top 4 in person for CLOL,
Yep.
and I would love as much of CLOL to be in person. I know it's a bit of a stretch to try and make that happen, but I think it's those in-person moments that are really special.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams complained about top 8 not being live and in person. I know from my experience back when I used to run the NC State broadcast, they were very
Mm-hmm.
big into like the fact that they got into top 8 was a big deal because that meant that they did get to play on stage and
Yeah,
whatnot back then.
yeah.
So it's a big moment. It's a big memory for a lot of players now.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact:
Mm-hmm.
that team is actually playing again together in league. They're playing in the low budget LCS, which I think is
Nice.
great. They actually hit me up with a link. It was like, Travi, you would be proud to watch us, and I would be like, I got in there. It's like, yeah, I am proud to watch you guys. Like they had the OG NC State roster that I started casting with, and I was just like, look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Those old timers are killing it.
They haven't lost a click.
I don't think so.
Oh, I like that.
Bit of a
I like
stat.
that.
I like that. I like that. That's actually really clever. I like that actually. That's really
He's
good.
gonna yoink it.
Yeah, I'm
He's
gonna yoink that. I'm
it.
stealing that.
Yell out on
That's okay.
broadcast. I
No,
would.
that's totally-
I would.
Shimmy's like, I already got the notebook. You're kind of locked in, my guy. You're
Well,
coming up with some good stuff.
with everything going on, live, we will get into a live MEC finals once the LAN comes around. But
Ooh.
unfortunately, you guys, as you guys did just allude to, did see two teams have to say goodbye to that dream of being able to compete at least on that stage. I gotta ask you too, right? Because you guys were
Mm-hmm.
there. I of course I was sitting inside Twitch chat, just kind of watching along.
Yeah.
But just enjoying the broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
the full reading of Twilight that was happening in the chat, all that other stuff. I
That
was just
guy. Shout out to that guy, by the way.
music.
Shout out to that guy.
Music lets me every single time they're on. I'm like, dude, I'm learning some stuff about Twilight, dude. I haven't watched that movie since I was forced to back when I was like in high school.
Shout out to that dude. He's always watching Twilight for whatever reason.
They're in the BCU games too, right? Like they always got like the hashtag BCU baddies too. Like they're cheering on BCU and all this other stuff. I want to ask you both, because you guys watched this. Did you guys feel
Yep.
like there was like anything considerable in terms of improvement you got to see? Because this is of course 2 week break that we got to see from BCU and Drury.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like there was like a considerable improvement that you saw over the week, or a different grasp on the meta you guys were kind of expecting?
Um, it's hard to tell because the issue is, right. It's like there are like I've said it multiple times. There are multiple different tiers, right, within the MEC right now. I think there's a clear top three. I think Ottawa's in their own tier. Then you have BCU, Drury, and then you have Cornell, CSU. So like the games, the one thing I was surprised about is how fast and how quickly the games ended. I think BCU and Drury, they need to do that against teams like Cornell and CSU because CSU and Cornell are just like not at that caliber yet. Mac mentioned, I think, in like week one, right? Both of these exact matches happened a long time ago, and they were a lot
Mm-hmm.
closer. Obviously, you could make the argument like Drury and BCU are a lot cleaner. They've tightened things up, but they're just unfortunately playing teams that are just at a worse level. I mean, for Cornell, Peaches, their support, who's their primary support player for the longest time, swapped to jungle for the last 2 weeks, and they had a sub or like a new support in.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, obviously, you should be beating that team in 25 minutes, 28 minutes, stuff like that. Like, that should be normal. But like, does that mean BCU improved or did teams get worse? Like, I can't like nothing out of Jury and BCU necessarily screamed out to me, hey, we like improved massively, right? Because just 2 weeks prior to that, how badly did Ottawa beat Drury, right? Like we saw it like almost like just instantly.
On that note,
Mm-hmm.
Shibby's that's in terms of the meta, like I know based on I think the break that the teams had, did we see some unexpected stuff? I think absolutely. Like I think some of the teams cooked a little bit in the draft. We saw Kaisa Nautilus come out in the bot lane, that new Kaisa build try to come out. Volley Bear Jungle prioritized and dominated. Kaiser had like such a crazy game. The Drury veterans had like the Fat Cat and Kaiser dominated game
Mm-hmm.
number one. They were all over the place, setting the pace of the game, and everything kind of went just according to when they ran. They were like, guys, we're go. They're incredibly decisive, right? Working very well together. Kaiser's like, I'm just gonna run at them. Fat Cat's like, I got you, bro. I'm gonna follow up no matter what. And we're gonna run down and kill them, and it worked out great. And then in the second game, it was actually pretty. It was close for a second, and then Drury just again kind of switched it into one of those gears. One of the things that I what made me happy watching each of the games was seeing how potentially what makes me excited for these sort of next sets of matchups, and something that I think we saw glimpses of during the regular season. So it's not as much of like we didn't see a lot of team change during the spring break, but I think I got some validation throughout these first few series, right? In CSU versus Drury, we saw Kaiser and Fat Cat take over game number 1, right? And then game 2 was the Orion show, and he absolutely popped off like a crazy amount. He was so freaking good on the Yone. It was something a little different, and he even said it in the post-game interview. It was like, okay, I got to play something safe that I'm kind of comfortable with, but I can't rely on what I've been playing the most. And so I think we kind of saw that Drury and Briarcliff are sort of validated as those, like, I think Shibby, you're putting them in their kind of own C tier, own B tier. If Ottawa's A and the top 3 are S tiers, and then,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
actually, it
yeah.
makes sense. CSU and Cornell would be the C tier, right? The
Yeah.
C teams.
Yeah.
See, I know.
C for C.
Kind
Yeah,
C C for C teams, it kind of works out. The tough thing is I think all 4 games ended under 30 minutes. I don't think we got a game that went
They were
over
short.
30. And so we saw it was tough. I loved what I saw between the games between CSU and Cornell. I thought they tried making adjustments, and game 2 was a lot closer, especially for CSU, who I think Isaacs took a step back, and they felt the pressure from Kaiser in game number 1. They banned away the volley in game number 2 and were able to actually kind of breathe a little bit better. And Isaac started focusing, like, Quick Slice was down like 0-4, 0-5 in game 2. And I was like, oh, CSU's got something cooking here. And then I think the team fight execution was a little tricky for them.
Yeah.
Kaizak's on Sejuani was getting a lot of kills. Fuse on the Aurelia was pretty far behind. And the team composition, the team fighting from the Panthers was just overall kind of too strong. I've kind of ranted on about these games. I apologize.
No,
but,
you're fine. You're fine. It does bring up to a question I actually do want to bring up, though, because we won't get to really talk about these 2 teams out in the MEC pod going forward because they have been eliminated. That was the last time we get to see them. If it was double round robin and there was more games inside of it, do you guys see a world in which one of these 2 teams are actually able to pull an Illinois State College, right? Where they are able to do that ISU, where they're able to go in there and, well, not ISU, but IC, where they are able to.
Yeah, Shibby, you kept calling them ISU.
It's an easy habit to have because there's Illinois State College and then there's Illinois College.
Yeah,
it's very,
you know
very
what?
easy
Yeah,
to do.
because the ISU Redbirds are in my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like Drew Dozer, like those guys, because they've been like I've been covering tier 3, and so like they are competing and they've been like doing pretty decent, and like I have like DMs with TJ and stuff like that, like on stuff. So like I don't know, they're always in my head. Yeah, you're right. It is IC. I mean, technically, it is. It's a pseudo double elimination, right? Like if you're a bottom, in my mind, if you place in the bottom 4, I don't think you deserve a second chance. Almost, it's kind of weird, right? In this case, they made it so I think the bottom 3 teams or whatever, like I don't know, I don't love the idea of like a second chance for like bottom 4 teams. It doesn't.
Well, I'm saying like in the regular season. I'm saying like in the regular season, if there was more games inside the regular season for them to actually kind of like, because what we've talked about with these bottom 2
just
teams,
more games, just fundamentally more games.
Fundamentally more games. Do you guys see that being like enough for this team? Because I think a lot of us have been bought into the idea that there is some cool things that we like from both Cornell and Cleveland State. And I think that we've all had like little things that we like and little ideas that they pop up that just do not gel together. Even like I believe when we had Fat Cat on to come in and talk, Fat Cat also had a very similar take on both of those teams where they're just like there's something there, but it's just like cool ideas, they just don't click. Do you think more games kind of remedy that, or is it one of those things where it's just like, all right, get ready for net split, guys. You guys just have to kind of rebuild and kind of refoster and get everything going?
I will say, just on a base level, I think playing more competitive games of League of Legends will make teams better, but the running assumption that those teams will get better doesn't account for the fact that the top teams will also get better,
Mhm.
right? So like the gap, it's the floor gets raised for all teams, right? But like the gap between the teams still stay, in my opinion. I mean, you could argue, hey, like maybe Ottawa or Purdue Northwest or ONU, if there's like another double round robin,
Yeah.
maybe we see a much more robust 1-2-3 where it's like this time around we had a 6-1, we had a 3-way tie for first.
Yeah.
The thing to me is if you are playing more games, it's the idea that even in these games, like what are we working on? I could never pinpoint, like you mentioned, like Cornell and CSU have things they're doing and it's interesting, but I could never like realistically see like this is the kind of team they are. This is their team identity, right? Like at least for Cornell, you would have some instances of like Eliza being the split pusher for the team, but like
Mm-hmm.
from week 1 up until the last week, she's still getting like I hate to like call her out specifically. This is a team thing, but like she's still getting caught out in side lane, or the team's not playing around her split push pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like they're desynced, right? Like that's a team thing, right? Like people should be communicating, hey, I can't split push right now, or you side laning is useless because one of our members are down and we can't get an objective, stuff like that. They did that like occasionally, but realistically, for a majority of the time, you would see it was small improvements. And the same thing could be said for CSU, where it felt like they didn't have like a very solid identity. Like, is Jason your carry? But he's playing Zach, so like he can't really carry. How is mid doing? Like, you want to give Shoes counter pick, but like he's not comfortable, and it seems like in every matchup. Your bot, like it just, even in the reduced amount of games, I couldn't see improvement over time. Whereas for like GVU, Purdue Northwest, ONU, you could see these teams like leveling up and understanding, hey, this is what we're going to play. This is the meta, so on and so forth. I mean, GVU had a very big change in like where they started putting more emphasis on Nightstar and allowing him to carry more, right? Like midway through the season. That's marked improvement, and that could just be because of Dreyer and the coaching staff. But like I can't fundamentally buy into the idea that these teams would just magically improve more because there's more games. I think the floor would be raised, but I still think there would be a gap.
I get that. I kind of wish that we see more of these teams like Cornell and Cleveland State. And I know it's a hard ask to ask because of Tier 3, of course, being on the same day as the CLO, which is one of the things I hate the most about Tier 3. I hate the scheduling of it because if, as a CLO team, you're basically like signing up for your weekend to be signed away, right? Like you have no weekend. I think that sucks. So I would love if they had like separate days yet again for where they would be able to actually do things, because it just sucks to sign up for that. I would like to see that more CLO teams actually sign up for some of those lower tournaments that aren't exactly like Tier 3, right? Like just because a lot of these leagues, they do have like Diamond Up teams that you can sign up for, and back
Uncapped.
I used to, back when I first started casting, I casted with like Compete League, and I casted with Upsurge since it started up, right? That was where you would see a lot of these collegiate teams actually come in, and that is where they actually got to come in and get some good practice for themselves and level up. I mean, we saw that for what was it? It wasn't they weren't Fisher back then. What was it? They were the Bulldogs, right? I believe is what they were.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. And they like that was weird times, but they had like one of the very first like pro into collegiate situations where they had Quas who came in and was playing inside of that team. They had Saranac who kind of got the level up inside of it. I would like to see more teams like Cornell, like Cleveland State, sign up for those leagues that are outside of it, just as something to get good practice. Because I remember talking to collegiate players, and their whole reasoning behind signing up for these AM tournaments was like, this is valuable for us to get better as a collegiate team.
Yeah.
So just quick thing you mentioned, right? I pulled up the UPL Fall 2022 roster list.
Yeah.
Like that's old, right? That's like 2 years ago. It's not super old, but it's old enough. So get this: there's HU Storm, Winthrop, Grandview University, St. Louis University, another Winthrop team, right? Redbird Esports, which is ISU, UST, which is obviously, we know UST, they were the collegiate winners. in the UPL Fall 2022 division or tournament, there are 7. Technically, I guess there's technically 6, but Winthrop has 2 teams. There are
Yeah, they have
7
their A and their B
collegiate
team.
roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, their A and their B team. There are 7 collegiate teams in this, right? Like that's.
And how
insane.
many of those were inside of round of 32 in that inside that year, right?
Exactly. Oh, Grandview, HU Storm, Winthrop. I think every single one of these teams were top 32.
Exactly. Every single one of them. Like, I would love to see more teams doing that. I think that just proves the point right there, too. It's just like,
Yeah.
Yo, guys, sign up for some of these leagues. And I think that would actually be a really good strategy for them. The problem is, right, you can't sign up for tier 3 unless you're, like, okay with your weekend being signed away. And
Yeah.
I think it's fine still
Yeah.
to, like, sign up for, like, what is it? Aegis is one of the leagues. There's Blue Otter.
Aegis, yeah, the uncapped league, because they do theirs on Fridays.
Yes.
So like that's where they will try to, like you said, make it so that it doesn't conflict, but you still sign your weekend away, because like if you're competing both tier 3 like NACLQs, like a lot of the teams right now are, or there's a good chunk of collegiate teams in there, right? Ole Miss, Winthrop, so on and so forth. You compete in that as well. Like your Friday, Saturday, Sunday is gone, and then Monday through Thursday you have to do school scrims. Most likely you're competing in like NACE or NECC or something like that, right? Like it's rough. I get it. If you don't, if League of Legends isn't your life and you're just a collegiate player,
Yeah,
I get it. You don't want to compete, but like. You gotta kind of have to be okay with being mediocre in collegiate, because there are tons of teams out there that are doing so much more than you.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are legitimately like aspiring pros inside of collegiate, right? Like we were talking about Illinois College, right? That Sage Wabe was somebody who I knew wanted to go pro. You have, I believe, Prod also has aspirations from Ottawa Braves this season, right? Has aspirations to want to go pro as well inside of competitive. Like, there's quite a few inside of collegiate, and even though like a lot of times people have came out and been like collegiate is not a path of pro, and Riot has shown that, you also have moments where you've seen players that have played really well inside of collegiate squads get promoted.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, circling back to like the main argument, right? It's like, oh, do you want to see more of these teams? I just think it's how you use your practice and how you try to improve that's more important. And like I said, I couldn't see anything from the bottom 4 teams necessarily. No offense to like Drury and BCU, like they won their games, but that's what they should be doing. That's the expectation when you're going against a team that has 0 wins and a team that only has 1 win. You guys should be like finishing these games in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? Or like sub 30 minutes. Yeah. The real test is how do you match up against the rest of the league, right? The top 4 teams. And like it could just be a similar story. Yeah, it could just be another instance where like Drury and BCU have to face the losers of our top 4 bracket. Like that's rough, man. Yeah. ONU, Grandview, Ottawa, and Purdue Northwest, any one of those, 2 of those 4 teams are going to the losers bracket, by the way. What? Crazy. How crazy is that?
Who do you guys think is more likely to upset in the next round?
Oh,
because
I think either just team Purdue, has Ottawa, and Ohio Northern Grandview. Or are you talking about
no? So the next round of losers.
Okay.
Who's going to more likely upset, Drury or BC?
So to give an idea,
no matter the winner, Shibby's wrong.
To give an idea, I'm going to break this down real quick because of that question. So, no matter what happens, how this works out is Drury University either plays Ohio Northern or Grandview.
Yep.
And then for Briar Cliff, they either play Purdue Northwest or Ottawa University.
Okay. Yep. And so likely based off of seeding, it would be GVU getting sent down to the losers bracket, which I just don't see happening.
I don't believe it. I genuinely okay.
That's not believing in Ohio Northern. They 2-0'd them last time.
But GVU
you know-
wasn't playing serious, Travy.
Ohio Northern had Tango. They had a substitute.
Nah,
true, it's
nah,
true.
yeah, I agree, but like I said, after that week, did you see what GVU was doing to teams? Like, did you see what they did to Purdue Northwest? Like,
All
there was
GVU
a
needs is a wake-up call.
yeah, there was a marked change from the week they lost to ONU up until the first. Like, I was like, oh, this is a different team.
There was somebody who said that they were like not worried about Ohio Northern too going into the matchup, right? Like,
Oh, prior to the first matchup.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't want to quote anyone on that.
I
Do you
think,
remember?
I think it was. I think Castle felt very confident going into it. It was either Castle or Strick Proctor.
That's funny.
Who was like, I'm not
Proctor
really that
was confident
worried about
after.
it.
Confident was Proctor after we interviewed him. I was like, "Are you worried for ONU?" He's like, "Oh, we weren't really taking him seriously that time.
Yeah,
We're ready for the playoff match." So like, there's some spice now, but I can't.
I think Castle. I think it was Castle who I talked to. Where Castle, I think it was on one of the MEC Pod episodes where we had the Kingdom Hearts
Marquise and
special
Castle?
version. Where we had it 2.5 and 3/4. But yeah, I think Castle was like not really too stressed out about Ohio Northern, and I think a lot of teams. Somebody else was just like, yo, no, Ohio Northern is like a team that you look at them individually and you're not really starstruck, but like they play really well together as a team. So I think they got a lot of respect out of people. But it sounds like you guys are on the fact that Ohio Northern's going down against Drury.
If I'm a betting man.
If you're a
I'm,
If you're asking me to put my Twitch points on the line, and I gotta go all in for game one, which I may. Well, we'll be casting it. I'll be there in the Twitch chat for anyone that wants to
betting.
take all my Twitch points and put it on
I'll take
ONU. I'll be putting my points on GVU. Depending on the draft, honestly. Maybe not depending on the draft. Nightstar can pick whatever he wants in the bot lane. I'm sure GVU's got it figured out. But no, I mean, legit, like my predictions for who gets knocked down would be ONU and Ottawa. And then Drury, ONU went 2-1. And BCU versus Ottawa went 2-1 as well.
Yeah, hot take, or maybe not hot take. I don't think any of the upper bracket matches go to 3 games. It's going to be 2-0s from each GVU, and it's going to be 2-0s from both of the teams.
Really?
It's going to be 2-0s for both of the series. Yeah, it's going to be 2-0s for both of the series.
Surprised. So let me real quick to break things down in a very quick way. Purdue Northwest and Ottawa, they played at the very beginning of the season. We actually got a quick look at them. This is an Ottawa that was 0 practice, by the way, that went into the matchup.
Yeah.
Killian probably not having played top.
Had not played top until literally the game before. You look over at this team, they've actually had time to play together now.
Yeah,
Purdue Northwest had been playing together for like months before this, I believe. Like Prank had already gone over. Like they were already practiced, and they came in with a strategy to like absolutely just destroy Prod inside the jungle, and then they just ran with that, and Ottawa kind of fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not think that now Ottawa, with a little bit more prep added into it, they can stop a similar strategy? Because I do agree, the last time we saw these two teams go against each other, it was a massive 2-0, but I think Prod has gotten a lot more experience and has looked so much better over the course of the split, and I think the rest of the team, especially the bot lane coming in from Ottawa, is really, really good, and I think they've leveled up considerably. As long as Ottawa doesn't throw inside the draft, I actually highly disagree with it being a 2-0. I think it has to be a 2-1. But it's going to be I think it's a lot closer than I think people would expect.
Well, if it's Killian playing and not Dio, yeah. If it's like, no offense to Dio, I love Dio, but like it has to be Killian playing. I feel like top lane's a little bit exploitable because we've seen Killian play what? Gnar, Rumble, Kennen, right? Like, those are his 3 champions.
It's Yordles.
And it's just like Gnar, Rumble, Kennen. I'm not saying Killian can't play other stuff. He's a challenger level top laner. Like I'm sure he can swing something out in the next couple like days or whatever.
He's had spring break.
Yeah, but this win, I'm gonna be quite honest. I like Levi on Smolder, awesome, great. I think Levi off Smolder is still a very good player, But this game, in my opinion, or this series win is gonna hinge off of Prod, like just super sanding. Like he has to go super sand here. I feel like a lot of what Ottawa does is off of what Prod can do in the jungle. And if Purdue Northwest, just if Klexo and Doubtful are the 2v2 that we know they are, if they're just playing at the level that we expect them to, it is so difficult for Ottawa to win this. And I think Prod, it is really going to hinge on Prod, right? It doesn't matter whether it's Blonde or Riverside playing. I think both of those guys are very, very good. But like, yeah, it's Prod has to put in like heroic performances, or like Purdue Northwest like open Smolder for Levi. And
it's more of the
I don't know why you do
2v2,
that.
right? Like when it comes down to the playing. So it's like, all right, can you outweigh the childhood friendship?
Exactly. Can Prod individually play better than what we expect Klexo and Doubtful to do? Because like we've seen junglers do it before, where they are just that much of like a dominant force that the mid 2v2 doesn't matter. He's just like everywhere all at once. Yeah, I like, not to put any pressure on Prod, but like, brother,
he's got weight. There's
no
weights.
Pressure,
no, there are weights. You got to acknowledge the weight that's on your shoulders.
No, like, and he's a very good jungler. He's got a deep champion pool. I think he can play a lot of different picks, like Lee Sin, Belveth, Graves, this stuff. Like, he's getting
All
banned out,
carries.
and I very much believe in Prod. And if he does it, yeah, I could see Purdue Northwest getting just fucking blown out the water. I am not on the Win King Toponer hype. I like Prank just ints randomly sometimes. Like, if you die randomly to any of Killian's champions, you run the risk of like him just hard carrying, right? Because if it's like a Kennen, if it's a Gnar, if they're even insane to leave the Rumble open, Prank just kind of dies randomly. He gets a little wild. He's even admitted it himself. But I don't think they're gonna do that. And like, yeah, the advantages, like you said, Travi, are gonna come from Levi, Plux, and Prod. But I think it's mostly gonna hinge on Prod.
I think for our should be for our continued sprinkling of basketball references. It's almost like Pranked is Jordan on the Wizards.
He's just having fun. Yeah,
you're like, what's he doing with those colors on? And
oh my god,
why is he not as good as I remember? No, Pranked, I think, is like, I'm not like, sure, you can point out a few of those like potential. You know, it's the regular season for Purdue Northwest a little bit. I think they were feeling good, and you know, kind of circling back to who might upset one of the losers. I think BCU looked really good in terms, and Drury as well. Again, I go back to honestly like the decisiveness of their shot calling. I'm really excited about the potential series because they showed yesterday that they were not afraid to make plays happen on the map extremely proactively. I'm getting flat. This one moment stands out to me so clearly with Cameron Talia coming down into the bot lane and Raymond on this surprise Zyra pick using Strangle Thorns with the Weaver's Wall blocking them off. It was just such chef kiss, and I'm really excited to see if they can bring that business to the potential matchup of I think it's next Monday they play. We've got winners semis on Friday, and then the following losers bracket matchups on the next Monday. So but I know we were kind of diving into the Ottawa PNW matchup. I know BCU will face the loser of that, and something for that matchup. I know we've been talking about Prod in the jungle, but who's going to be with him in the mid lane? We have no idea. It could be Riverside or Blonde. I know we kind of mentally, like, they switch out every game. So they've kind of merged into...
They're one entity.
One entity, one mid laner, but...
I don't see a huge, like, I've known players say, like, I've heard that players have a little bit more fear of Riverside, but I actually think it's a bit of a disrespect at Blonde, just due to other reasons.
Exactly.
I think Blonde is actually, like, fine. I actually don't think there's, like, a considerable difference between the two of them, because, like Riverside has came in and subbed into the games. What difference has Riverside made that Blonde hasn't made inside of a team, right? Like the best game I've seen from Riverside in one of their losses, right, is like a 1-1-1 Akali game, which is like you never went in, you never found any kind of executes, you didn't find any way to execute inside of a play, right? Like that could come down to your draft because Ottawa's drafting has been grief at a lot of times, and that's probably been my biggest proponent of like Ottawa. I'm mad at you. I do think like I think Purdue should have the edge. I think Ottawa will probably be the team that goes down. I think if you're looking at upsets, I'm actually in like the camp of like I think Ohio Northern should actually have like a very good matchup. I'm actually going to slightly favor them a bit. I like to be a little spicy. I also like this because so fun fact. Proctor actually DM'd me and said, I saw what you've been saying on the pod.
I saw what you've been saying.
You better watch out. You better
Put some
watch.
respect on Strict Proctor's name.
Gravy, why is there a teleport coming in behind you on the ward there? Who put that?
I legitimately,
Proctor on Warner.
I laughed so hard. Like Proctor, of course, like it was just like all in good fun. But I was just like, yo, Proctor, I'm watching, bro. Like if Proctor can show up inside of that series, I think it turns out really well. But because of the fact that Proctor has said that to me, I feel like I also am dedicated to have to continue to doubt that GVU has fully woken up. They had a whole 2 weeks to like chill out. I do think that they're a very good team, and I think if they get sent to the lower bracket, they will find themselves back up, and I think they will be fully awakened then. So it kind of comes down to me being like, all right, Grandview goes down, Grandview's going to beat whoever they have to go against. It doesn't matter. Ottawa goes down, it becomes a different subject because Ottawa's draft has been very int to me, and I think that's probably their biggest weakness. Like, you have the weights that you've been putting on people's shoulders. But I do look over at Ottawa and be like, bro, you guys, like the GVU game immediately can be taken as an example. That's their most int draft by far. Well, why the hell do you ban out all of their 4th, 5th, and 6th most played tanks and leave open no, they banned Udyr. Okay, fair. But like they literally banned Udyr and then banned all the other alternatives and was just like, what do you have? It's not like you've played Cassante as your 2nd most played champion inside the MEC. It's not like, oh, it's available. Oh, you picked it. Oh boy. Well, you know what? We got a surprise for you. We banned all these tanks so we can lock in Scion, a champion obviously that Killian is known for. Let's go. Like, brother, it's it. Like they've had some great performances recently off the back of Smolder, but they have a heavy reliance once Smolder's gone on Varus. And then what do you do after that, right? Like, there's a lot of things that I feel like Ottawa needs to, like, figure out, and I hope they figure it out over the course of the break, because a call to arms, bro. Wake up! It's time to wake up! Stop falling asleep in the draft. Actually talk together as a team before the draft and decide on a strategy on how you're going to attack. Because it just felt like they kind of said, hey, maybe we should just ban out Proctor. They rely on this guy, you know, and to be like this tank. And then it's just like, oh, I can just imagine like Killian half asleep is up in there in the top lane. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah,
like. Come on, man. Like, I need to see a little bit more from Ottawa. I'm a doubter at the current moment of time. If I'm actually looking at a team from top 4, I doubt more. I actually doubt Ottawa more than I doubt Ohio Northern is what I'm getting at.
I am a Prod believer. I am a hundred.
I'm a Prod believer.
I'm Prod's biggest fan. I'm Prod's biggest fan. I love him. Also, yo, you will say like Levi plays Smolder Varus. He's really fucking good on those champions, though. Like,
true.
Levi Varus just does more damage. Like, when he flashes, so he can get the most amount of damage off. Like, I remember there was one fight. I think it's in the montage that Hyper made as well. Like, I call it out. Like, instead of flashing away to dodge something, he flashes diagonal into dodge, so he can still do more fucking damage on Varus with lethal temple. He hard carries a fight. I love Levi. I love watching that dude play because I know he's got one mission. I need to kill this whole fucking team. Like that's what I need to. My life, who gives a shit? I need to do as much damage as possible. And that's the way you play AD carry in my mind. He epitomizes like the aggressive, hard carry. Like, give me all the fucking resources. I will win you this game. And like Prod also epitomizes like the highest risk jungler. Like he just goes for stuff. I'm like, I like lose my mind because sometimes it works and sometimes you just like power ints. But like when it does work, he's a fucking genius. Like I love those kind of players, and like I'm a very big believer in those two to like step up. Like I said, it's a hard challenge. It's Doubtful Klexo. They're fucking good too. Like they are consistent. They are the epitome of consistent mid jungle duo, and like they work so well together, right? Like you just understand as a 2v2, like it's so hard to beat them.
I'm getting a sense of two teams, either Shibby on team Belief and Travy on team Doudawa.
I'm just yeah. No, this is just as simple as that. I feel like we're both on two different sides on that. I don't know. I think if you are going to see a team fall from grace out of top 4, it is Ottawa, just because I don't have faith in their prep, because they haven't shown me anything to have faith in their prep inside of the beginning of the season. And I think once you get into the playoffs, it does take a little bit more time to be like, hey, look, you guys have had a cumbersome amount of time to prep. I think Ohio Northern, I think they are a team that is still being slept on. And I've said it numerous times on Side the Pod. The challenger has to prove themselves 3 times as much. So
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
looking at it. He's sleeping on it.
I'm sleeping on it. I'm sleeping. I didn't know. I don't even know where I had that. I just had it over there. Playoffs is happening. The props are coming back, by the way.
I've been promised props and I haven't seen a single one, Shibby. So what's up with that?
Tune in this Friday, Mac.
This is Friday. Yeah, I didn't want to do any props for like the lower bracket matches. I was just like, it's whatever. It's not worth it. But yeah, upper bracket. We talked a lot about the Ottawa PNW. I do want to talk about the ONU GVU because, like, for me, I can't ignore it. Jinkall is individually one of like the best players in MEC right now. Like, he can just lane kingdom you, and he's got such a deep bag. Like other individuals, like the Azir stuff, like I think it would affect Riverside. Although Riverside plays a ton of league as well. Like it affects some of these guys that like played a lot. Also fucking Klexo, who plays a ton of Azir. Like he plays a ton of Azir. I don't have that fear for Jinkall. Like Azir's out of the meta, or you can't pick him. He's disabled. All right, sick. I've got like 5 other champions. He has a Nico. He's got a Syndra. He's got an Orianna. He's got a Silas, I'm sure of it. Like he's got other champions he's played that I have fully faith in him. And he, even in their loss against ONU that week, like he was actually doing really good in Decatur while the rest of his team was collapsing. Collapsing might be an overstatement, but
Kaido had more playmaking moments inside of fights, right? Like
sure, but it's easier to do that when your team's winning, right? Like the burden on Jinkall in those games was like he's got to be like 100% because the rest of his team just kind of lost everywhere else across the map. I think in a more even game state, I always put like my money on Jinkall in a more even game state, and I think it's much easier to tighten those things up. I think Nightstar and Pluto are doing a lot better. I think the fact that Kog'Maw's back in the meta, Zeri's back in the meta, right? You take away Smolder, like we're in a scaling bot lane meta. Give me Nightstar every single time. That dude is fucking insane on those champions. Those are the 2 big carry points. I think Proctor, he is a role swap. He doesn't really play top lane or US support. You can pick on him. Aggression is not the top laner that I would think can exploit that, right? I would argue Prank from Purdue, who's got a deeper bag of carry-orientated top laners, could exploit Proctor more. But aggression is just consistent. He plays tanks. He has that Darius into Udyr if you want, but realistically, aggression is just a very consistent, better Proctor in my opinion. And if that's what you're doing, if that's the angle you're going for, sure. And just, I'm sorry, like Kai and Cuz have just not impressed me in the bot.
They've been pretty quiet, right? I was actually going to get onto that. Is like if
Yeah.
I am looking at Ohio Northern and like, all right, you gotta have something to step up. I do think Kai and Cuz is where you look at for Ohio Northern to step up, because I do think that even in their win that they had against them, remember Kai was kind of just quiet and kind of gotten taken around for the ride. Even said it inside the post game interview. It was just like, I didn't really do much. I had like some decent score lines, but it was not like off the back of like some immense team fighting. A lot of people would look at Tango, who was the substitute support coming in from their B team, who came in and showed off. You also had the fact that Julian had a phenomenal game. The two Jinjiao games that they had were insane. And they were just very high tempo, gave up all their farm and just said, all right, yeah, no, I'm gank. I am ganking. That is all I do. Kaido had a phenomenal time on top of playmakers, and aggression was eating good topside. The Gnar was really annoying, actually, for them to have to deal with up in the topside, and Strip Proctor style of playing tanks got called into question. I believe they got to have a good time on a Cassante game into the Gnar, right, where they kind of got to get their advantages that way. But they had a hard time, and I do call into question, right? Like, if you are going to look at the past series, Ohio Northern, their bot side looked the weakest, but they also had Tango in instead of Cuz, so you don't really have an accurate look of that. And it even draws into the question, do you just bring Tango back in to just throw a wrench into their plans again?
That's crazy.
That's a what? That's
some 3D chess. That's some secret. That's some secret bishop.
I mean, Cuz hasn't had a great split, and we talked about it in times of our all team. I felt like Cuz kind of got overshadowed by the one game performance, the one series performance by Tango, because Tango had such a great one series, well, two series technically, that they came in. It overshadowed Cuz in a lot of aspects for me. So I do wonder, right? Like, because that's something that
just not a Cuz appreciator, Travy. Well, it's ridiculous.
Here's the thing. I've seen somebody like have a substitute come in and perform better. We've seen examples of that in pro play, where a substitute comes in, plays, drops fat numbers inside of a game, the game that they're subbed in for, and then somebody comes in, the main player comes back, and everybody is just like, they play worse, right? It's almost like they're living inside their own head, and the performance just falters a bit, because now you have this expectation of, I have to prove that I'm that main player, right? And I do wonder if there could be a little bit of that discourse going about for Cuz as well, because like I said, Cuz has had a pretty quiet split.
Nah, get out of here, Travy. Cuz is coming in swinging into the bot lane.
So
despite me being
loves ONU.
Despite being a GVU believer, don't get it twisted. GVU's gonna win. I'm the
Ohio believer, by the way.
I just think it's not gonna be because Cuz is into. I think Cuz is gonna. Cuz, I should distinctly remember him having like a really awesome Lux game, and that's the sole reason. He was a support. He was doing everything on Lux, and it was absolutely amazing.
It was the Kate Lux game, right?
Yeah.
It was the Kate Lux game they win. Yeah, it was so
good.
They like hard counterpicked. It was like I forgot who they were playing, but the other team went like a really scaling kind of bot lane, and I was like, they just opens it up for Kate Lux, and it's like, oh shit, they're going.
It was classic, Travy. They brought it back, because how many times did ONU play Kate Lux last year?
Oh,
you know, it was like their bread and. I saw the bread and butter. I got a taste of the PB&J classic, the dynamic duo in the bot lane, and all I can do is hope they give me some more peanut butter and jellies, man.
Yeah.
A quick thought.
Oh, go. Yeah.
Who, Travy touched on the point a little bit. I think it's something, considering that these teams have already played before. In y'all's mind, for each squad, one player that not going to be like the MVP of the series, but like them stepping up and having a good series would potentially mean the difference for the squad.
So like they're like not an MVP, but like they're They're like the what is it? The Pippin to the Jordan kind of thing.
And for me, for G, I'll go.
Yeah, go
For me,
ahead.
it's Castle on GVU. I have no idea what they're gonna pick for the jungle. Castle's been a super flexible jungler champion pool. He can play pretty much anything in the jungle. He had kind of a questionable game on the Lee Sin against ONU last time.
Yeah.
Is he gonna bring it back? What's gonna be the move? I don't know. And then for ONU, Kato losing Azir is tough. But are we gonna see something like the Kato Akali? We know we
Kato
got it.
Sylas.
We know
Yeah,
we
that's
Yeah.
what
got
I'm
it in the
thinking of.
bag. So,
Mhm.
those are my two kind of players who might not be. Kato probably could be the MVP, but I still want Kato to. I'll be interested to see how Kato does against Inqual. It will be a fun mid
So
lane matchup.
for GVU, I think the player that if they step up or if they like have a Super Saiyan performance will make the difference maker. I actually think Pluto is like really, really key
Hmm.
to how GVU plays because you often see him on stuff like these heavy engaged champions. I think we've seen like the Rel, the Nautilus,
Rakan.
we've seen him on the Rakan, right? Like he is a big facilitator as to like why this team fights so well because of his engages. Like the way he plays Fog, it's like him and Plux are at number 1 and 2 in my opinion. The way they play around Fog and the way they like roam and engage on these like later game team fights. So for me, GVU Pluto specifically has to do better than Cuz, right? Which is depending on how you view Cuz and his role within LNU, I think if Cuz plays the way he's been playing, yeah. Depending on if Cuz just plays the way they've been playing, if Pluto just gets an advantage, like in the first couple, like 20 minutes, right, where he's like roaming, he's affecting lanes, he's setting up vision, all that stuff. I think that's the big difference maker. On ONU's side, I, it has to be Julian. I think like Julian needs to
Hmm.
have like another crazy pop off performance. Because if you just play Castle's game, Castle will win like every single time, right? If you play this like slow, methodical, like I need to be where he is, I need to figure out where he is, I need to counter gank, like that's Castle's game, and Castle's perfect at playing that.
Yep. I agree with that.
I disagree with that point. I don't think that's been Castle's playstyle this season. He's been based on the champion meta, what they've been able to play. Castle's out here with like 3 kills within the first 10 minutes, like every time he's on Jin Zhao.
So
That's if he's on Jinzhou, but like we've also seen him on like Sedge and I think Maokai, where that's
Mhm.
like more
where GVU's like,
like
we're gonna team fight at
Yeah.
like 20
yeah,
minutes.
we're gonna
Or if he's on
like, look for
Nocturne
really-
and they're trying to scale up to like level
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got to play that Castle
Mhm.
version of Castle, I think it's like you said, because like the Lee Sin, it's hit or miss. I think there are other Lee Sins in the MEC that can do what Castle does but better. But I love when Castle's on like these tank econ junglers and just like controls the pace of the game, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
I think GVU is really good at doing that, like just pacing the game to their level and forcing the other team to kind of like, all right, well, you've got to be on the offensive. You've got to be proactive. You've got to take like 70-30 plays. And if you fuck up, we're just going to win because we are scaling. We are better. Jincall's going to team fight better. Nightstar's going to team fight better. Pluto's going to get a fucking crazy engage on your team. And we're just going to win.
Yeah.
So that's, I think for me, if Julian can't play like his super aggressive style, yeah, they just fucking lose to GVU, I think.
Mine's super
where are you
simple.
at?
Mine's super simple. I also have
us with
Pluto
it.
from GVU.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Pluto, hey, don't go 0-13.
That is also Pluto. Don't have a Pluto int game and like you just win.
Exactly. I think if Pluto as an int game becomes a little bit like, all right, you can't do that because Kai has been playing a lot of Smolder, so Smolder does get through. Kai's on it. Like you have an int game into Smolder, it's GG where it played. Also, like Caitlyn's another one you don't really want to have an int game into. Ezreal, you can accelerate Ezreal super easy if you do that. Like, I just look over at that and I'm like, all right, don't do that. Because Kai will take advantage, and we might see the King Kai of days past come back.
He can just step up. Yeah, like the idea that Kai isn't able to enter King Kai form, I don't like. It's not that he can't. It's just that he doesn't need to.
He's in his Master
all I'm
Roshi
gonna
arc
say.
at the current moment in
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
He's everybody looks at him like he's skin and bones, but then you get into like the tournament arc and he gets the muscles. You're like, oh, Kamehameha! You know, like he's just.
Let me show you why this was my technique. Like,
So Pluto's mine from GVU because I think he's also a double-edged sword. Where if he has an end game, it's big. So there's a bigger set of eyes on Pluto for me for like. Because I know that he's fantastic as a playmaker. I want to see that more. If I go over to Ohio Northern, I actually go a different direction than all of you. Aggression. I think if Aggression is able to capitalize and actually have a phenomenal game into Strip Proctor, just like they did in the last series, they could be impactful. Remember, in the last series, their pivotal pick was Gnar, and they were actually really exceptional at finding flank moments, setting up those team fights. The big thing that does hurt, that Matt did say, no Azir, so you don't get the Gnar-Azir combo that we actually got to see inside of fights. But still, you do have the Silas. That's a very popular one that I'm looking at Kaido to pick. That I'm looking to see them play a little bit more of that playmaking style. So, who knows? But I think Aggression, if you're looking for somebody to like knock Strip Proctor, knock somebody down in laning phase, Aggression's really good at that, and all their champions are really good at carrying an advantage into the next team fight. So I'm gonna go Aggression for mine. My layup to go in there. He'll throw the ball up. Julian will be the one to smash it on down. Is my thought process. So, but yeah. I think that's good. I think we got a good read on everything. We get to start off everything with winner's bracket going on Friday. Go into the lower bracket on Monday. I still am not casting any of these games. I'm just sitting here like a sad person over on the side, like looking in, just let me in, you know, like watching the games. But it's going to be a phenomenal time. I'm going to be completely envious of you two. Make sure you guys check it on out. We'll see winner's bracket start up on Friday. You'll be able to see the game start up at 6 p.m. EST for when our first series will start on up, and then it will continue on throughout the day, same time for Monday as well. Oh my gosh. So
we start with ONU versus GVU.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna be cashing in some channel points. I hope you all will be as well. I'm looking forward to seeing.
Travy's coming for my Twitch points.
I'm feasting on those GVU tiers. Let's see it. Let's see what the boys have in stall for us here. We're gonna go ahead and send it on over. Y'all make sure you take care. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your night.
Bye.